This video brought to you by Squarespace.
What's cooking, everybody? Dave Mays here with Kinotika, and today we're talking about whether or not it's worth buying a Red in 2019. Let's go. I don't know. So it's 2019 and there are so many options when it comes to professional video cameras. You've got all these cheap little mirrorless bodies that are cranking out amazing image quality. We've got cinema cameras like the Blackmagic or the C200, and then the high-end cameras from Red and Ari, which our friend Ash actually just picked up, the Red Dragon X camera. Ash is a friend of mine who I recently met, who's a musician and a filmmaker who wanted to buy a cinema camera. So Ash spent over $20,000 on the new Red Dragon X body with a lens, a case, batteries, all sorts of fun stuff. I've been shooting on Red cameras for about 8 years. Back when the original Red Epic came out, I actually was involved in productions with that camera. So I've used these bodies for a while and they're still kind of the same. The touchscreen still sucks. The interface is still really bad, but the thing that has changed is the image quality, and it continues to get better and better with every iteration. And it's no exception with the Dragon X, which is sharing the same sensor from the Scarlet-w, which has been around for a while. There's just a few upgrades, and we'll talk about that later in this video. We were itching to get this camera and use it, so we grabbed the half-charge batteries, went outside and shot some test footage in epic slow-mo and just seeing what the 5K image quality looks like. So without further ado, check out some of our B-roll that we got on the new Red Dragon X.
Does your website look like something stuck in the 90s? Do you need a refresh? Then definitely check out Squarespace to give you a more modern and stylish look to your site. If you use the code KINO, you can actually save 10% off your first purchase. Thank you again, Squarespace, for sponsoring this video.
Man, there's just something about that Red footage. I don't know what it is. And that's kind of the thing that I want to talk about here for the rest of the video. Red just has this mojo to it that is just hard to explain. Well, the dollar signs kind of explain it. This camera is very expensive. This body only that we shot on is starting at $15,000, and the kit that Ash bought is over $20,000 when you add tax. It's definitely worth it if you can afford the camera and you have justification to use it, but I think for most people, shooting on Red is just not necessary. The camera that we're shooting on right now is the Nikon Z6. With an Atomos recorder, you can shoot full frame 4K 10-bit and soon to shoot 4K RAW for under $5,000. Compare that to $20,000 and man, it's just like, you could buy so much more with that $15,000. But again, there is something to the Red image quality, and that's why so many big YouTubers and content creators do choose to shoot on Red. Obviously, Marquez Brownlee, MKBHD, shoots on Red, not only the Dragon X, but the 8K Monstro VistaVision, which starts at body only $54,000. These cameras are like very expensive, and obviously these people are making enough money to afford it and to justify it. But I think that's the main thing. If you can't afford this camera, then rent it. Use it for the productions that make sense. I don't think you need to shoot on a Red for everything, although Red, if you're watching this and you want to give us a Red, we're more than happy to shoot everything on a Red. Give it to us, we'll do it. Now I did shoot all this footage myself, hand holding it and shooting manual focus, and one of the cool things about Red is the implementation of the focus peaking. I actually really love what they're doing here. As soon as the camera detects that you're focusing, it goes into focus peaking, and it waits about a second after you're done focusing and turns off. So that way your image isn't just muddied up with this focus peaking setting all the time. You can turn it on all the time if you want, but it is cool to have that feature, and you can see by the B-roll here that the focus peaking is very effective. There's no autofocus that you can really rely on this camera. You could turn on a continuous autofocus system, but if you think the Panasonic GH5 is bad, then you should try the Red's autofocus. It is just awful, and it's not something that you're gonna wanna do, and cinematographers don't shoot autofocus. They shoot on manual focus lenses, often with a team of people, and that's really what this camera is for. It is for traditional film sets where you have a shooter, a focus puller, you have a person running the DIT to look at the footage and manage the media. This thing is a real, true Hollywood camera, and that is kind of why it is so expensive. When you're shooting a multi-million-dollar movie, $50,000 for your camera makes plenty sense. And in fact, a lot of movies still to this day rent cameras, even though they could buy them outright. But this is just how it works. This is how Hollywood works. It's totally different than what we're doing here on YouTube. It just doesn't make sense for me to drop $20,000 to shoot on a Red for YouTube videos.
In terms of money, we have no money.
Again, if Red wants to give me one, I'm happy to shoot on it. And if we get to a point where we're making millions of dollars and we can afford it, then I might reconsider, because I'd be able to afford a team of people. Marquez Brownlee, who we met at CES, actually had a team of people with him shooting. That's kind of the only ways to do this. You need an audio person. You need somebody to man the camera. You need somebody potentially to do the autofocus for you. Anyways, I'm kind of rambling here, but the truth is, the image quality coming off of these Reds is truly amazing. This new DSMC2 body style, which is what Ash bought, has the new IPP2 color space. If you're not familiar with Red stuff, basically IPP2 is the best color science that I've ever seen from Red. It's unbelievable, and the fact that this camera has it at this price point is pretty cool. And that's really what's so great about Red cameras, is the ecosystem of cameras, the flexibility of RAW, and the power these cameras can do in terms of resolution and frame rates. I mean, the camera that we were shooting on was able to do 5K RAW at up to 96 frames per second. Once we dropped down to 2K, we were able to go up to 240 frames per second in RAW recording, mind you. It's really amazing. Reds and Aris are really just beasts of cameras that are fun to play with and fun to look at. Obviously, most movies and Netflix shows that you watch are shot on these cameras, so when you shoot with these cameras, you kind of have that subtle look of Hollywood films, and that's why Ash wanted to buy the camera. He was just not satisfied with what he was getting with his Sony A7, for example. He wanted that cinematic look, and he could afford the camera, so he got it. More power to him, and more power to Marquez Brownlee, who can afford it as well. I think, again, it really comes down to what you value, what you want, and whether or not you can afford the thing. I definitely, for one, cannot afford $20,000 for a camera, but I can afford $3,000 to $4,000. That's why we're shooting on the Nikon Z6, which is probably a more practical camera anyways. If you guys are interested in seeing more Red footage, we now have a contact with our friend Ash, so definitely check him out. His Instagram and YouTube links will be below. He's an awesome musician and filmmaker. Definitely should check out some of his music. It's actually kind of incredible what he can do. So comment below and let us know what you want to see with this new Red. We're pretty stoked to have access to it. I think it's a really fun toy, very expensive toy. Now, I know this camera is extremely expensive and it's something that most of us can't afford, but it's still cool to look at and it's still pretty cool to play with. So let us know below what you want to see with the Red now that we have access to it. And if you want to see more, if you don't, then we'll just shy away from it and play with it by ourselves. Thanks again, Squarespace, for sponsoring this video. If you're interested in buying a new website, then click the link below. Using the code KINO, you can save 10% on your purchase. Once again, I'm Dave Mays. This video is not shot on Red, but I would love for it to be. Hey Red, send me a Red. See you next time.